I have worked with writers before, much more expensively, I might add. But my experience with Upwork has been amazing. I mean, again, just using your template or your methodology in terms of putting out a feeler or a test project, saying, hey, if you want to get positive ratings, I'd love to give you a good rating in return for a low-priced article. And from that, I've had 2 or 3 very strong writers that I still work with. When I put the project on, it was like $10 for 1,000 words, which for a good, writer that writes better than me is amazing. And even now, I pay my best writer $30 for 1,500 words, so 2 cents a word, which, again, I mean, can't beat that.
Yeah, it's a great rate for, the quality that you're getting. And where are your writers located typically?
So yeah, again, I opened the project up to the whole world when I first started, and I kind of learned that there are writers in my space that are U.S. based. So I've just been working with U.S. writers lately because a lot of some of the bad experiences I've had have been with folks from other countries who write really good cover letters, have good resumes, but when they actually submit the product, it's like spun or so.
Yep. And I've tried to experiment, I should always test the assumptions that I have. And whenever I do open it up to the world, I end up with kind of garbage, basically. So I try to stick to UK, Canada, US, Australia. If someone is located elsewhere, that could be fine as long as they actually are truly a native English writer or speaker. So,
Content on my site is very U.S. centric, I would say. Maybe Canada a little bit, but yeah. So I need a U.S. writer that anyway. So
sure. So with the content, are you providing like pretty tight templates for them to use, or do you let them run with it a little bit? How have you been working specifically once you get them on board?
I've learned that the more details or the more structure you give them, the better product they will produce, right? So at least what I'm looking for. So and that's something that's a work in progress. I have a writer now that came from one of those Upwork test projects that she's willing to write whatever as much for me as I want her to write. So I'm actually putting together a template in Google Docs that has heading goes here, et cetera, et cetera. And this is something, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but part of my goal in the next couple of months is to really build out an outsourced team that's taking the different things off my plate. Like one of my biggest time sucks is posting the posts in WordPress. So that if I can just hire someone in WordPress to take the writing, turn it into H1 tags and the meta description and that kind of thing, post the header, that kind of thing, it'll really save me a lot of time and be much more scalable, which
That was the number one thing for me. Like once I added a editor, content manager type person to draft in WordPress, then I could just like pour it on. And I actually just ended up promoting a writer who wrote a ton. They got a little bit bored, and then I created pretty simple job aid. I think it's about 4 to 5 pages or so, a couple screenshots, and pretty straightforward. So once someone goes through it a couple times, gets a little feedback, like they could just knock it out way faster than you or I, because
right.
you'll get distracted, right? So you'll start doing it. You maybe want to change an image or do one thing, and next thing you know, you're watching YouTube videos on whatever, cats, dogs, whatever.
Just
You
curious.
Sure.
Just curious. Question for you is what do you pay that person?
I pay hourly. Typically, it's between $10 to $20 per hour. So hourly is a more fair way to do that gig because they may spend more time editing. It may be a longer piece of content, so it just takes them longer to format it. And usually, like I said, $10 to $20 depending on their experience level and how much I want to keep them on board. So a lot of times you'll be able to pull them on for 10 to 12, and then if they are good and they're continuing to look for gigs, they'll probably be able to say, hey, would love a raise, or I'm going to go take another job. So depending on who they are, I'd paid up to 20 per hour, but
I
it's
think
worth
WordPress.
it.
Yeah, I think WordPress content management too is a very common skill.
However, if you try to hire a WordPress content manager, they may try to charge a lot more. But if you promote someone, similar idea to hiring a new writer, you're getting them to learn something new. They're taking on more responsibility than what they were planning on, and they're eager to learn typically. So
there's my ethics. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. No worries. All right. So content wise, any other like cool things that you have discovered over time? So you're planning on adding a content manager soon to really scale it up. Anything else?
No, and again, I think it's something that when I found your channel and some of the other channels, it was just focusing on buyer intent content has really kind of exploded what I'm doing. And again, just off a very modest amount of traffic. If you're getting that traffic to buyer intent pages, you make so much more money.
Yeah.